What's a great book you've read recent? Rendezvous with Rama. Great. The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. It's about the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. And also H. Holmes, who is considered the first serial killer in the post-industrial revolution age. There is a lot of information about the architecture of the time, which admittedly I knew nothing about before, but was absolutely fascinated with. If you like Devil in the White City, I'd recommend In the Garden of Beasts by Eric Larson as well. There is no bad time to read Mouse by Art Spiegelman. Sometimes at night the psychiatrist's dialogue with Art pop into my mind. Very Mistborn. Essentially it's a dystopian fantasy book about slaves rebelling against a man who gained enough power to become God. It's written for adults, so there's no cliché tropes. I really enjoyed Mistborn, but written for adults is a bit of an exaggeration when Sanderson has said before that it's one of his most yaoi books. If you didn't realize you'd picked up a ya book at first, you did when Vin gets a boyfriend. Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. I am in the middle of Year of the Flood, which is the second book in the series. I had read OAC many years ago, but forgot most of it, and enjoyed the reread more than the initial read. Oryx and Crake is an absolute banger. I couldn't get into the sequel for some reason, it just didn't grab me. But Oryx and Crake was extremely epic and touching. The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's a long read, but certainly worth it. I read Crime and Punishment last year and loved it. I've been meaning to pick this one up, but the length keeps making me hesitate. The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. It's about how he got his money, and it's awesome. A lot of these chapters exist because of Scrooge remembering something from his past in the old comics, but they just prove how continuity can be good and not a problem, as they're also really good. Don Rosa is the best Scrooge Duck author there is, and nothing can change my mind. How he can make you empathize with Scrooge and develops such a profound and fascinating life for him. The personality he gives him as year. His Scrooge has so much depth, truly a fascinating character. And since Don Rosa is such a Barks nerd, he'll pick the smallest detail referenced in an original Duck Scrooge story and he'll give you a full-fledged story about it. The Alexandria Library story is probably one of my favorite, but I gotta say the multi-story about the American Crown is very close. Here for great sci-fi recommendations, I recently read the first 3 novels of The Expanse, and I enjoyed them this year. I'll second that. I'm on Abaddon's Gate right now. Going to stop after that until the next season of the show because I don't want to read ahead. The Stranger, Albert Camus can do, but Sartre is smarter. Sartre goes into a cafe and orders a coffee with no milk. The waitress comes back and says, "Unfortunately, sir, we're out of milk. Would you like it with no cream instead?" The Name of the Wind, Flowers for Algernon, the book Thief Shadow's Edge. I love Flowers for Algernon. Haven't read it since middle school, but the impact has never left. And Now, a misspelling from Charlie Gordon. I love Flowers for Algernon. HAVNT, read it since middle school, but the impact has never left. Oathbringer by Brandon Sun. It's book 3 of the Stormlight Archive. Pretty great so far. Just finished, can confirm, it is fantastic. Can't wait for book 4. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Makes you appreciate what you have, and your son or father. I struggled to adjust to McCarthy's style of writing at first, and the story seemed to drag. But once they reached the house with a pile of shoes in it, I instantly went, "Oh fuck," and I was hooked. If you haven't done so yet, the Border Trilogy and No Country for Old Men by McCarthy are also fantastic. The writing style was a huge curve for me too, and it makes his books nearly impossible to follow via audiobook. But God, once I got into it, I was also incredibly hooked. I haven't read The Road yet, but it's on my shelf. I always wonder if other people have encountered the same issue with the audiobooks that I have. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by PKD was incredible. Humans getting more and more integrated with technology, and androids becoming indistinguishable from humans, really messes with your head. See, whilst I'm a huge PKD fan, I actually found Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep to be kinda meh. I don't know if I just didn't get it. I don't know if it's because I had seen Blade Runner first and expected something different. I much preferred UBIK and the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. And of the handful of PKD I have read, the only novel I liked less was Man in the High Castle. The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The Dark, currently rereading The Wheel of Time. The foreshadowing and world is awesome. I set myself to read the whole series, on book 11 right now, and I'm mostly lost. There are so many characters and there is no way to tell when, if a character will play an important role, or if the author was just indulging his talent for making up new names. It's really enjoyable, but I can't see grasping the whole thing in the first read. Yeah, I can see that. It was for me too, that background characters kinda blend into each other. But luckily you can still follow the main plot very well, even if some smaller connections don't make sense a lot of the time. On a reread this gets more and more clear, especially after the third book, when the explosion of characters start to happen. I can definitely see me rereading again in a few years and then getting even more minor interactions. World War Z. It's such a great book with one of the worst film adaptations. I keep telling people the same thing. They turned a really rich series of detailed, insightful vignettes into a standard hero film this year. Jingo by Terry Pratchett. It's not usually on the list of favorites when discussing Discworld books, but I think it's pretty great, and it has some really funny moments, and some really poignant moments. My second favorite Discworld book, with the favorite being Night Watch. Agreed, Night Watch beats all. And the stuff about story in several of the books, Hogfather and Witches Abroad come to mind, is a pretty brilliant lesson for writers. I have a fondness for Murakami. I'm tackling IQ 84. Not long worked through Kafka on the Shore, which I really enjoyed despite being mostly bonkers. I also had his running book as well, which was pretty cool to read. Kafka was my first of his books, loved it. After Dark had similar weird vibes too, if you have read that one. I haven't read his Would You Recommend, by Randall Munroe, of XKCD fame. This is the first book one have to set down every chapter and take a break from all the laughter. It's a plain, earnest, and funny attempt to encourage and explore critical thinking and problem-solving. And it is well worth it. Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Great story with many funny moments. This book got turned into a TV show. What's hilarious is that some Christians apparently petitioned Netflix to cancel the show because it celebrates Satanism or something. The kicker: the show was actually produced by Amazon Prime. It's a real-life comedic moment worthy of Terry Pratchett. Amazon Prime cancelled Stranger Things in retaliation. Then Hulu cancelled Preacher in solidarity. The book The Lies of Locke Lamora, first book in the Gentleman Bastard series, set in sort of the Middle Ages of a fantasy world. Definitely worth checking out. All Systems Red, The Murderbot Diary, the story of a rogue security robot that hates guarding scientists and would prefer to just watch sitcoms instead. I'm ready for the Thorn of Emberlin to come out. It's been 7 years since the last GB book. Misery by Stephen King, November 22, 63 by Stephen King, A Boy Who Knew Too Much. Ooh, I wanted to read that after Cujo. Is it any good? Which one? I just finished IT. It's very long and it takes a little time before the action builds up, but it's certainly well worth the wait. You would think 1,300 pages was enough, but I honestly wanted more. The Spice and Damp, Wolf-like novels, The Hobbit now on ILOTR. Rereading The Dresden Fire, currently on Book 1, Stormfront by Jim Butcher, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. All far, Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. It's an amazing book. Good old Raymond. Love that guy. The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. It's a book about a Japanese woman who really loves working in a convenience store. I know that doesn't sound exactly riveting, but it's actually a really good book. Murata is a mesmerizing writer, and the book ends up taking a really deep look at societal pressure and how individuals cope with it. It's also only about 180 pages long, so it's perfect for a long flight or a book to a weekend. If you like thought-provoking books, then I definitely recommend it. Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. I like the really short chapters. Liar's Poker, it's about a Bonds salesman in the 80s and the culture of Wall Street in general. Definitely worth a read. The Secret History, by Donna Tartt. Fabulously written, very clever, and a great story. I highly recommend this book to pretty much everyone. It's fat. The Glass Castle, Jeanette Walls. Everyone I've known who have read it rave about it. It's an engaging account of an American family growing up in poverty. Everything is fucked. A book on hope. It's what everyone in today's world needs to read. It will bring you a sturdy level of peace and a mindset to find stable happiness wherever you are in life.